Hi everybody, my name's Yvette. Today I'm going to show you how to use the Rigoletto yarn by Red Heart to make this really easy, super fast, fluffy ruffle scarf. This should take you about half an hour if you're used to knitting. This little piece here is about 10 inches long and it took me literally a couple minutes. This video I'm going to show you how to make this really easy one here. I do have another video up for this fluffier version and how to knit that one using more stitches, and it takes a little bit longer and you need more than one skein. This particular scarf you can make with one skein of the Rigoletto Red Heart yarn. This is just a small sample, but you can make a full-length scarf with just one skein in about half an hour or so. So if you want to go ahead and grab your knitting needles, I'm using a size 10 wooden knitting needle today. I'll meet you back here in just a minute to show you how to work on your scarf. Okay, so just a little information about your Red Heart Rigoletto yarn before we get started. It is actually, once you take it out of your wrapper and undo it, it doesn't come in a ball, it comes in a big wound hank, I guess you call it, or skein. It's not really a ball of yarn though. You'll just snip this the little threads that hold it together carefully, and then you can work with it on your lap or however you're going to be working with it. And the Rigoletto yarn is actually a tube like mesh yarn. You can find the end, you can actually open it up like this here. So it's actually like a tube. So there's really no top or bottom to the yarn. And it's much different than working with the standard mesh yarns like the Red Heart Ruffle sachet yarn, like this one here, with sparkles in it. This one has sequins along the bottom edge, if you can see them, little tiny sequins. And then you also have some of the ruffle yarns that have like a little bit of a furry boa or pom-poms and things like that on the end. So they work up much differently than the Rigoletto yarn. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to knit with this. For people who are seasoned knitters, this will come really quickly to you, I'm sure. People who are inexperienced at knitting, I'll go a little bit slow at the beginning just to kind of show you what you're doing, but you're only working with 2 stitches repeatedly over and over and over again, so this is really a quick scarf. It'll take you maybe 15 minutes or so to complete a whole scarf once you get working on it. I believe the skein is 11 yards, and it works up one skein will make a whole scarf that you'll probably find, depending on, it's going to vary a little bit in length, but it'll probably be about 60 to 70 inches long or so, I would say. And again, it just depends on where you place your stitches. Everybody's going to place them just a little bit differently. So when I open my skein, it's going to be kind of skinny in this area here. You're going to stretch it after you work it. So we're just going to take the end and tie it in a knot, and then you're going to clip off, tie it really tight, and then clip off the end to about a ½ inch, and it will look like this here. Okay, then we're just going to take our knitting needles, and today I'm using a size 10 wooden needle, and I just prefer the wooden needles because they're a little bit less slippery when working with some of these ruffle yarns. I'm going to go in from the back and I'm going to cast on 2 stitches. So I'm just going to grasp, I don't know, anywhere from 3 to 5 little strands here close to the end. Just leave about ½ inch. Find an area that you can go into from the back like so. And then about 3 inches away, you're going to do the same thing. Just find a little area that you can go into from behind like this, grasping 3, 4, 5 stitches, and then just go like that there. Now you've got 2 stitches cast on your needle. Okay, so now we're just going to turn that work around And I am right-handed, so I'm working with my right hand, so I'm hoping that this will be easy for lefties to catch on to, especially if you're an experienced knitter. This will go really quickly for you. So I'm going to go a little bit slow for the newbies who have never ever knit before, just so you see how to work this particular yarn in knitting. So you're going to find your first stitch, and you're going to see that there's a hole here that you're going to work into. This is your stitch here, so you're just going to take your needle and you're going to go in from the front to back right into that center, crisscrossing over your needles. You're going to take your working yarn here, making sure that it stays flat and doesn't get all twisted back and forth. Work with the top area here, and you're going to go out about 3 inches approximately and just find a few strands of yarn. You're going to take those strands and you're going to wrap them around the back needle and just drop them on like so. You're going to catch those stitches on that needle. You're going to come back through the area that you went in when you first crisscrossed your needles over, and then you're going to lift off the back needle. We're going to do the same thing for our second, which is our last stitch on the needle. You're going to find that little area that, like this here, you're going to go through the center, crisscross over, grab your working yarn, the top of it, and you're just going to go approximately 3 inches down and place a few strands of yarn over that back needle. Now if it's easier, you can open up the strands of yarn with your fingers like so and drop them over that back needle, or you can just take your needle, find a spot, and place them in the strands of yarn, catching them. Now one little thing, when you're taking that and you're working about 3 inches out to grasp that next area, you don't want to come way back here and only do about 1 inch or 2. The reason being is you're not going to get those layers of ruffles as nicely. It's not going to look as nice. It's going to be really kind of tight. So you want to make sure you come out about 3 inches, which is about 1, 2, and 3. And you're just going to, take those few strands, wrap them around the back of the needle, catching them on the needle, pulling it through, lifting off the needle. My needle's empty in my left hand, and now I've got my stitches on my right hand and I've got my first row done. This knot that we started with is going to be completely covered in just a moment when we do our next row. So we're going to take that needle and place it in our left hand, and we're going to work the next row, which is again just 2 stitches now. So we're just going to take about 3 inches out. We're going to grasp, just drop a few of those stitches or a few of those strands on the needle, pulling it through and catching those strands, lifting off. Go through the center, grasp our working yarn about 3 inches out, drop a few stitches on the needle, pulling it through, lifting off. Now we've got 2 rows of work on the needle, and you'll see it's already starting to form a bell, and underneath, I'm going to flip this around into my left hand so that I can begin my next row again. You'll see that your beginning knot is completely hidden underneath those layers. Okay? You're just going to keep working the same exact thing to every time. Every row is going to be the same. Work your 2 stitches in the same fashion till you get to the end when you only have about 6 or 8 inches left, like so. And you're going to cast off your work and tie your knot, and I'll show you how to do that right now to finish your scarf. When you get to the end of your skein and you've only got about 6 or 8 inches left, you're just going to work your last 2 stitches like you did the rest of your skein. Then you're going to take your stitch the farthest from the end, and you're going to lift it over the end of the needle and over this stitch here. You can either do that by using your knitting needle and lifting it over like so, or you can use your fingers to do it. So then you've got 1 stitch left on the needle, and you've got a few inches left on your skein of yarn. So you're just going to grasp this last stitch removing the needle from it like so. Open it up a little bit gently. You're going to take the rest of your work and you're going to work it into this hole like this. Now you can use a crochet hook or something, it makes it easier to pull it through. Okay, so now you've got your last stitch and your rest of your yarn. So all you need to do is take this yarn and tie it in a knot, and I try to position that knot right on top of this last stitch. Makes it more secure that way, I find. Take that knot, position it over the last stitch, pull it quite tight, and then you're just going to chop about 1/2 inch here. Take all this off and chop it about 1/2 inch. When you do, and then you flip over your work after you pull your layers, you can, once you have your work done, you can pull on your yarn as much as you want or as little as you want to make it rufflier or not. And it's going to look the same as this end with that knot chopped, where you don't actually see the knot underneath, it's just hidden in the layers. So depending on how loose or tight you want your ruffles, you can pull your yarn at this point. You can start stretching this. I've already stretched this quite a bit, so you see it's already in the layers, but you see how it just gently forms these rings for your scarf. Again, it's much different than working with the sachet ruffle yarn, and it's super fast to make. This one here was almost a full skein. I think I took about 2 yards off just for the sample to make at the beginning to show you how to work with it. And so I think a full skein is 11 yards, and so that left me about 8 or 9 yards or so on here. And it took me less than 15 minutes to make this whole entire scarf. So it should take you less than ½ hour to make a whole entire scarf with a little bit of practice. If you have any questions, please email me at YvetteMariesFineArt@gmail.com, or you can post a comment or question below and I'll be happy to answer you as quickly as I can. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.